afternoon, and welcome to the latest episode of All Mixed Up. This episode is entitled Creating Balance. We're going to talk about what that means. But thank you for watching. I'm Mark Simmons, the founder and chief strategist here at Mixed Digital.
I'm Stephanie Garaffa, social media director.
And Chris Rosowski, all things creative, also known as creative director.
This is a snippet of the team here that makes things work, and what we want to talk about is how we create balance for our clients. Now, what does that mean? What does balance mean? I'll start. Balance in our mind is the marriage of the digital aspects of marketing, where it's very quantifiable, very metrics driven, very results oriented. You can easily show an ROI, and that's kind of the path that most digital agencies take. They keep it very PPC, SEO, social media. We're generating leads. You're spending X, you're generating Y, and you can make quick calculations to see how well campaigns are doing. But the way we see it is, in order to augment the power of those campaigns and really get an effective use of our clients' marketing budget, we like to bring on the creativity side of things. So by marrying the analytical side and the creative side, we create this balance, this synergy. And we feel that's the most effective way to truly drive results for a company. I'll let you guys add on to that.
Yeah, the important thing that I always, to keep creative really simple, is creative is the story that you're telling. And when you have your data and you have your analysis and you have your media, well, that's your place, and that's the people that are looking at it. But if they're not looking at a good story, if I go to the movies and the movie stinks, I'm not going out of that movie and telling my friend to go see the movie.
Right.
Because it wasn't a good story. It didn't have good characters. So your creative is the story. So no matter how great your placement is or how well you target your audience, if you're not telling them the right message in a creative way, in a concise way, in a simple, easy to understand way, well then you're not maximizing your budget. You're not maximizing those dollars spent. You're just throwing something against the wall and hoping that it sticks, as opposed to really creating something beautiful or something that somebody wants to look at or gain knowledge from, and then putting that up against the wall with confidence that it's going to work.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we feel like everything's so much fun, and it's like, oh, let's just run and do everything. Let's run and do social and PPC and build a new website. But it's kind of like having that strong kind of foundation. So you're building off of it and kind of building things in a way where your messaging is consistent and it's communicating. And you were talking about this earlier, where it's kind of thing where in the long run it does save you money. You were saying something like that? The return is greater?
Well, yeah, good creative will maximize your budget because let's see, basic marketing is reach, frequency, and impressions, right? So you can reach as many people with the dollars that you want. You can reach them as many times as you by spending money. Right. But if you don't have the right message, then you don't have the impression. You haven't left the lasting impression. So I spent the money, I got it in front of the person that I wanted to get in front of, and I got in front of this many people, but it's still not working. Why? That's often the actual execution of the creative. That's the message. It's not resonating with your audience that you're reaching.
So I think to put this in terms that the audience can relate to, it's, part of it is the difference between using stock photography and having a professional photographer come in and do the work. And we've talked about this, I'm sure we've talked about this in another episode, and we talk about it all the time. The power of that professional photography, it brings an unparalleled authenticity to the creative. So, when you're using that to display on your website, you're using it in your email copy, you're using it across your social media, you're using it for any print flyers that you're creating, it shows the brand. It shows the people of the brand. It shows the authenticity of the brand. People can spot fake photography, right? People can spot stock photography. You've got these images where everyone's like, "Yay, we did it!" and it's just so cheesy. Like no one sits at a meeting and is like, "Yay!" That doesn't happen.
It's like an Anchorman where they're all like, "Go, Norse team, go!"
Exactly.
I love it.
So you've got this. It's almost an epidemic now. When you think about it, because look at Facebook ads. You see it all the time, and I swear I saw the same woman in one Facebook ad in 3 Facebook ads from 3 different companies because they use the same stock photography. And when I see it, I guess being a little skewed, being in the marketing world, I can spot these things easier. I'm more sensitive to that. Maybe the casual Facebook user or just person in general, consumer in general, is not really paying attention to that. Or maybe they are. I don't know.
But, regardless, it's the kind of thing where you're not going to distinguish between the ads if they look the same.
Right.
You're going to say, okay, that's the same company. It's just, ignore.
There's that challenge, yeah. There's that possibility that that's the end result, that they don't see the differentiation. They don't see you as being special and worth spending their money on. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I see is just kind of the taking of shortcuts and using cheap commoditized creative. Mm-hmm. Going on Elance or freelancer.com or Fiverr and paying $5 or $10 for a graphic designer to come up with something for you that just looks awful. And you end up spending, you end up going back to the mill and then hiring someone real and spending more money than you intended in the first place. We see that with web design too, but to your point, investing in good creative pays dividends down the line. Yes. Because with our client, with our client VSC and the photo shoot that we did, now we've got all this great photography that we use for the website to roll out the website launch. But now we've got all this content to use for social media, for the new emails that we'll be putting out, new flyers that will need to be created, trade show content. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's many, many uses that they're going to get after this one investment that they made in doing this photo shoot. And it makes so much sense. It looks so much better. It looks so much better to see the people that work for them, right? The actual people that work for them in their own environment. And it really brings a realness to a real feel to their website and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think you touched on a few keywords there that jumped out to me. So real, genuine. We touched on this before when we did our all mixed up on no BS branding.
Exactly, the messaging.
There's such a trend now in the consumer with this key trigger word of transparency, and it's because the new generations coming up have been so bombarded with marketing throughout their entire lives, and the budgets are just getting bigger and bigger, and there's so much out there that, yes, Mark, the average person can distinguish between stock photography and real photography, and the average person has seen the puzzle piece cliche ad and the hourglass time ticking away ad and the handshake ad, and all these they're so generic and they're so cliche, and then as soon as the person sees those in their head, they're like, that's not real. That's BS.
Okay, so let me
but when I
stop
see
you
the
for a
father-son team that we shot on VSC, who look alike, and they have their hats on, and they have some tattoos and their sunglasses on, to me, that's a real person. I'm not being marketed. I'm not being sold. I'm being told a genuine story, so I can make an educated decision. Is this a story that I want to be a part of, that I fit into, or not? As opposed to feeling like they're telling me I should like this story, and I just have a weird feeling about it.
So I was going to interrupt you. I have a question for you. So is there ever a time and place for stock?
Oh, absolutely.
And can you expand on that a little bit? Because this is a whole world that I don't know.
The stock world out there has definitely become more affordable, and there's so many sites out there right now. So usually when I'm approaching a new client, and I'll do an asset inventory, which will look at their logos, their photography, any fonts that they use, anything like that, and then we'll look for any holes that they have in their existing assets. Some of those holes, very often, if it's a customer service rep and you're just looking for, a lady with a headset on in front of a computer screen, Do you have to invest in a photographer for that? Not necessarily. So you really, it's what are those key holes that are missing that tell the story that's really important to you? And then again, that goes back to branding, because you don't want to use stock photography on your unique selling points, the things that make you you. Mm-hmm. Those are what you want to invest in your custom photography, your custom illustrations. Yeah. Because those are what make you you. You know, everybody has a customer support person, so you can kind of make that more generic. But not everybody has a father and son dynamic duo technician team that makes our client who they are. And so you can't get that on stock.
Yeah, and it even transcends that, and where it creates the balance is, you know, on social media, when you're communicating the messaging, if you've got stock photos, it's not showing the personality. It's not that human side, and that's just what makes social so exciting, is it's a place where you speak to not what feels like a brand or company, but it feels like you're talking to an actual person.
Mm-hmm.
So if can a company be successful if they don't invest in their own photography?
Yes. I'm trying to think. I think the best way to do that is examples. You can brand and do a company strictly on type alone, and I'm trying to think of some good ads that but it's just a white page, the classic New York Times style full page ad is a giant white page, a small image, and a very creative headline. If that image just is a piggy bank, well, I don't need to hire a photographer,
right?
And pay him hundreds of dollars an hour to take a picture of a piggy bank. It's really, it all has to do with that message. Do I need to show uniqueness? Do I need to show that I separate myself from my competition? How do I distinguish myself in the landscape? Mm-hmm. But you can. It really all depends on the execution. And that's where you really need, some experience to feel it out. Like, what's the difference? And you need to know what's out there as far as stock and what you can do. And, if there's no words and the image is just the piggy bank, then, well, maybe you need to hire a photographer because it needs to be some dramatic lighting and you want a reflection of some of your team in the piggy bank, and if the image is everything, hire a photographer. If the headline is everything, well, spend $50 on a stock photo.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, in the modern world that we live in, the digital world, imagery is everything. Because everything that we do, it really almost revolves around the image first. With social media, okay, so let's take social media, for example. When you're posting on social media and you look at a text-only post versus an image post versus one containing a video, that's pretty much how well they do. Text has the lowest engagement, image has higher, middle of the road, and then video has the highest engagement. Mm-hmm. So when you're thinking about that, you need, in order to compete in the social media space, which is so integral to most marketing strategies, you need the creative. Mm-hmm. It's essential.
Yeah, when I was taught social media in the beginning, years ago, it was, everybody, all of these brands and companies wanted this super polished look. They wanted the stock photography. They wanted to have the perfect colors and the airbrushed skin, but that's just not realistic. And what I was mentioning before about the personality of social, I was taught that, a cell phone camera shot, perfect example, you go to a trade show or a conference and you're representing a company, mm-hmm. and you're tweeting with this hashtag and you're taking shots, in real time when you're there of what's going on, and it kind of gives your viewer this kind of feeling of, hey, I'm there, and it's like my friend is taking the picture. And before you jump in on me, Mark, I see that brain ticking. Don't take this from you. Okay, so, and you're scrolling through the newsfeed as a regular, everyday Facebook user, and of course you're looking at your friends and family. Of course you're going to be looking at that. Mm-hmm. But as you scroll and you see this image, this shot that isn't this polished thing, but it's from a company, it's like, hey, that's personal. It makes me feel like I'm kind of on the inside.
It's authentic. I was going to say, it stands out. It's real. Mm-hmm. And that's the point. There's, creative has many meanings. And not when we say creative, it's not always polished. It's not always a professional coming in and doing it. Most of the time it is, right? Yeah. But still, when you think about it in that sense, in the trade show and the conference sense, that's still creative, you know, and integrating creative into the solution, into the overall execution. And, you know, going back to the concept of balance, really you can't get away from it. I don't think you can be successful and get away from it. You have to have that very analytical, this is the numbers game, I need to reach this many people in order to generate this many sales or this many leads. But in order to achieve the sales and in order to achieve the leads, you need content to get the person interested in what it is that you're selling. Or what service it is that you're offering. And if that content doesn't look good, doesn't look unique, doesn't look real, then you're spending money pushing out content that people aren't responding to. So again, it's that balance of the analytical and the creative that's necessary, I think, for any successful, you know, any campaign to be a success.
And the other thing is, we kind of mentioned this before, if you have already generated some key messaging or some key visuals, every dollar that you spend, you should try to incorporate that messaging, that visual, because that is how you repeat your message over and over and over again. That's how you create top of the mind awareness. That's how you get people, hey, maybe they didn't need the plumber last week, but by using the same imagery and the same messages consistently every time you spend $1, that top of the mind awareness, when I need a plumber, well, now I remembered that ad that I saw a week ago.
I was going to jump in on that because I just thought of something. It's so funny. I hate going grocery shopping. I hate it because I can never find anything. And, you know, there's a reason that people who work there wear the same shirts. It's because you might think you know what you're looking for, but there's that moment where you're like, I don't know where to find this. And then, like me, I start to freak out. But, you know, you find that person, you reach out for help, and I was just thinking that, you know, when they hire people, they want a certain kind of personality, they want a certain kind of look, and, you know, we're all running around the same t-shirts, but you know we're there, we're a resource. Stop looking at me. You're looking at me like, what else you got in there?
Fables.
I know, the wheels are turning, but I'm
no, but I think that's back to, I think that supports what he was just talking about with consistency. And I kind of have a question for you, because it's something that comes up often is it possible for a company to create consistency when they're working with multiple vendors? When you've got this brand vision, this brand strategy that's being executed by separate companies, is it possible to have cohesion?
Yes, and it's very, very simple. And we know it in the industry as brand guidelines. What does that mean to everybody else? That means one of those agencies, or yourself in-house or whatever, sets up the rules. They say, these are the images that you can only select from. These are the fonts that you can use. These are the colors that you can use. These are the logos you can use and how you can use them. So you set up a Bible, you set up an instruction book. Once that brand guidelines or that instruction book or the foundation, as we've been referring to it today a little bit, has been established, well, you can give that to anybody and say, you need to follow these rules. And anything that they do will then be consistent when they spend that money without any sort of approval, because they've already followed those rules. So you're not using a serif font in one ad and a sans serif font in another.
Right, separate.
So let me play devil's advocate. So you've got multiple agencies that are all vying for the same business to be the singular agency. So I mean, do you think that that's realistic, that they're going to follow brand guidelines created by someone else to a T and not try to differentiate themselves? Or do you think that they're going to kind of go rogue and put a little spin on it to separate themselves from the pack and gain favor with the client?
That's very often up to the client. Because yes, most agencies, most individuals, we will always try to put, I call it our thumbprint on it. We'll always try to put our thumbprint on something because that's what makes us us. That's what sets us out, makes us special from the other guy. That's where it's usually the client's responsibility. And or if there is an agency of record, a primary agency's responsibility to police those guidelines. Just because those guidelines are out there doesn't mean someone's going to follow.
Right.
Someone still has to be responsible for making sure those guidelines are followed.
I guess what I'm getting at is, doesn't it make more sense for one agency to be able to, as long as they have the capability to do so, that one agency is executing that vision, executing that strategy, so that everything is completely cohesive, so that the teams are talking to one another, and using that information to optimize the campaign from a execution standpoint, and to get feedback from the marketplace as to how to change the strategy and improve the creative because of what they're seeing people responding to and not responding to. I mean, doesn't it make sense to do it in that manner instead of having six different agencies executing the plan?
It does. And the real practical answer to that question is because you had just said it. Like, you learn as you go. In anything in our business, you learn as you go. In the digital world, we call it like A/B testing. In the creative world, as we've developed these brands, we realize that the logo, when knocked out to white and reduced too small, doesn't work. Well, if I just tell any other agency my brand guidelines, sure, you can knock the logo out to white, and then they make it small. Well, now I lost the logo. So the experience of the team who has developed the brand, who had the original vision, learned. They learn from their mistakes along the way. It's hard to pass that along to other agencies. It's especially hard to pass that along just via paper or a website and brand guidelines, because that's just experience. That takes an eye. That takes someone like me looking at a bunch of ads on the paper and saying, oh, when we ran this logo on red in newsprint, it doesn't reproduce well. It bleeds too much, the dot gain. So the more experience, the more errors you've made, the more you fine tune the brand that you have with it, the more consistent it's going to be going forward.
I think it makes it easier for your client too.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. Sorry, I cut you off on that.
Yeah, I mean, my point is, I think it makes it easier for the client to just have that one agency that's working together to execute on all platforms, so that they have a singular point of contact, and they're acting as the quarterback of the team to make sure everything gets executed. But it creates that consistency, which is extremely important. Wherever a consumer touches the brand, it should all look the same. Should all feel the same.
Yeah.
And I think I just find that's hard to achieve when there's multiple companies. In my experience, it has absolutely been hard to achieve when there are multiple agencies involved. So.
Yeah, what I was just going to say was, I feel like there's a discrepancy between priorities of agencies. So while every agency is different, just in short, it's just so important to find, that one vendor to provide you that full service. So you're finding an agency that's specialized in your industry. And that's something where when you start from square one, phase one, start with creative and then start executing, the fact that you have that vision and you share it with someone as an extension of your marketing department, or just taking everything in-house, you have to build that trust with your client, and your client has to trust you. So if you have too many cooks in the kitchen touching different pieces, you're going to have retail touching an HVAC. That doesn't make sense. So, positioning yourself in an agency format is kind of the thought leader, expert. They can really guide that brand or company in the right direction.
Yeah, there's a lot of, or maybe not so obviously, but there's a lot of advantages of working with the agency. You've got that knowledge base that they have, where they can explain different concepts to you and to the client, and get them up to speed. There's that the industry knowledge, because things are always changing. It's such a fast-paced environment where new software is available, new functionality is available, new tactics and strategies are being tested out. There's always something going on, and I personally have to subscribe to like 20 different websites to keep up with everything that's going on, just so that I'm, making sure that we're on top of things, right? But there's a lot of different things that go on there. I think that working in that consolidated environment just removes the headache of multi-communication for the client, because they've got to coordinate with different partners, different vendors, different companies, and all of that. I wouldn't want that. I think it makes it
But-
much more
but
difficult to do my job.
But if you are going to use different vendors, you have to find the ones that play nice together.
Yes.
And that's the thing, there's really a miscommunication and people are not timely with how they handle things, or maybe you just don't have the people with the ability to do something, and maybe you have an ongoing relationship with one, but the last thing you want to do is just kind of have two different agencies or vendors that just don't work well together.
Right.
They compete, have different priorities and a vision, and then it's maybe they're trying to steal business from someone's trying to steal business from him. The relationship between the two is really important.
Some of them work. I mean, there's an example of a client that we have that we won't name, but with the PR agency that we work very well with, and I think that because there's no need to compete, we don't do PR. For that client, we're not doing PR, and they're not doing the digital marketing and social media that we're doing. So
it's great.
There's no need to compete. We work very well together, and client benefits.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see if, for instance, one company is doing PPC for the Americas and one company is doing PPC for EMEA. That I could see the competition there, right? I can see the competition because they're doing the same service, but it's just separated by region. I could see the competition there, but in our sense, that's not there. But okay, so I think we're coming up on our time. So, final thoughts about creating balance with your marketing strategy and execution. Your final thought, my final thought.
My final thought on creating balance is keep it simple. And a lot of people forget that in advertising. They try to keep things very complicated, lots of moving pieces, lots of moving parts, lots of this and that, and different creative executions and multiple ad campaigns. But the less moving parts, the less things you have on that tray, the easier it is to balance that tray. And sometimes we forget that. And sometimes you need the professional. You need someone to come in and help you get rid of the clutter, show you what's not working and why it's not working, consolidate, condense, keep things simple, and go forward from there to create that, keep the balance.
Yeah, the balance, I really see the balance a lot in social, just because from the get-go, you want to have the right look, you want to have the right voice, have the right content, and most importantly, a lot of brands approach it with, we're this company, and they have that very, what's the word I'm looking for, very kind of dry,
corporate feel.
Corporate feel, yes. And I always say people connect with people. People don't connect with companies. And when you're on social media, that's your opportunity to be a real person and show that side of you and be a human. But yeah, I mean, I just think that you should really see social as a way to connect on a more personal level, and the only way to do that is from having the right creative, keeping that consistent across the board.
So my final thought is to always look at the big picture. I think that a lot of companies have a tendency to segment out their marketing and look for individual firms for a specific marketing channel. Who's the best PPC? Who's the best email? Who's the best social media? Who's the best SEO? They don't think about the big picture of what are we trying to achieve. So if we're trying to achieve customer acquisition, growth in revenues through new customers, or we're trying to create more leads, or we're trying to increase our revenues in e-commerce, right? That's the big picture. That's the driving force behind the marketing, because marketing's point is to spend money to make money. As Chris said, keep it simple. So if you keep the big picture in mind, then the next step is to develop that strategy that supports that big picture. And that's really going to encompass the quantitative analytical side and the creative side of things. They need to be working in tandem in order to create that balance, right? So that's our video for this time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button below, share it on your social media.
Like it.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Have a great day.